Hello everyone. So welcome to the 22nd session and the last session in our theme 3, that is the Indian reaction. I know session 21 has been a bit drag and session 22 will be like the same. As we have discussed that what is important in the socio-cultural reforms from pre and the mains perspective, right? And today after the end of the session, I'll give you a series of questions, 5 to 6 questions, and I would like you to try those questions and make notes according to it with respect to the mains. With respect to the prelims, one thing I can assure you, I'll make you solve at least 10 to 15 questions on the socio-cultural reform movements, so that even if you have missed something out in the previous fun session or today's session, that will be recalled again. Because I know the retainability part is a bit tough in this particular section of the theme 3, that is socio-cultural reform movements. Let's go ahead. So very quickly, what we have learned yesterday, we talked about the desire for reform, that why they wanted to reform in the first place. First of all, the social conditions dictated them that they should reform. Secondly, the impact of the British rule, they brought with themselves some ideas from outside. When these ideas have come, both kind of things will happen. First, the reactions to it and some entry of these ideas. So these ideas were good. British rule itself was unethical, but the British values, or the values with which the British were run in the Britain itself, those values, humanism, rationalism, scientific query, scientific temper, questioning, these were the secularism. So these were the values which affected the Indian enlightened section. So one section who have opposed this culture, they will come up with a different sort of reforms, and second section will come up with try to reform this. But one thread that is common between both the sections is that yes, there is a need of the reform. There has been a recognition, there has been a consciousness that yes, we have been a society which has deviated from its path, which needs to be improved upon, because the society which we have made, it has a lot of problems, and because of these problems we are ruled, or we became ruled over by a handful of the foreigners. We are so many, but only few foreigners have taken over us. So that sort of consciousness has built into the Indians. Now that consciousness will divide into two parts, as we have discussed: reformist and the revivalist. Reformist will say that yes, we have to reform with respect to the values, the new values, humanism, secularism, and all these things. They will also trace their origin of the pure culture or the ancient values. They will not leave those values. For example, Arya Samaj will talk, oh, for example, Brahmo Samaj will also talk about the scriptures. You know, while the revivalist will say, no, the old times were better. In between, we have changed. So, in a essence, they both want to change the society for good. Okay? Chale. And that's the reason we have seen that Arya Samaj was seen that it was more of a revivalist in the form nature, but not in the content nature, isn't it? Chale. Then social conditions we have discussed, religious condition of women, caste dynamics were the problems. And today we'll talk about the caste dynamics and a lot of reform movements that have taken place in this particular regard. Now, one reformer which we have not read, that is Ishwar Chand Vidyasagar. What I will suggest you, for example, today we will do one question on Ishwar Chand Vidyasagar. At least I will give you the link of the session where we have discussed that question. From that particular session you can make notes. Everything cannot be taught, it's a bit factual topic as well. I'll brush aside some of the things, but from that session itself you can make notes. In fact, that PDF is also available on our platform, and you can get that PDF and get it done. Chalo. Let's start with the first one, very important, that is Jyotiba Phule. My personal role model, Jyotiba Phule and Savitribai Phule. Their life itself serve as a role model, and their life should be taught as a role model, in my opinion, right from the childhood. Now, Jyotiba Phule was an Indian activist, thinker, social reformer. He himself belonged to a lower caste, that is a Mali caste. He himself faced a lot of discrimination. The similar story you can see of B.R. Ambedkar himself. He himself faced a lot of discrimination in his childhood. and that has prompted him, no, I will fight against this discrimination. He was also the Jyotiba Bai Phule was a very big pioneer of the women's education. Big reformer. He big pioneer. For example, he taught his own wife, first taught, then gave her the opportunity for teaching, established a school, work for the women welfare, work for women empowerment, and a lot of things that he has done. Right. So known for his efforts to educate the women, along with his Savitri Bai Phule opened a girls for school for girls in Pune. Then a lot of schools, more schools were opened. In 1973, formed the Satya Sodhak Samaj, Truth Seeker Society. ठीक है? Satya Sodhak Samaj with the main objective of liberating the Bahujan Shudra, protecting them from exploitation and atrocities, campaigning for widow remarriage, opposing child marriage, and these things have been done. Before going to discuss more about him, let us discuss how you should prepare him. Firstly, you need to prepare about the, if you talk about the main, so major contributions. Contribution of not only Jyotiba Phule but of Savitri Bai Phule can separately be asked. Remember that. Secondly, from prelims perspective, the question can be on Jyotiba Phule, not on his life, but his literary works, his schools, then Satya Sodhak Samaj, their values, and these things. So these questions you can expect in your prelims. Right. Let's come and discuss. So Jyotiba Phule himself faced a lot of inequalities, injustice, and discrimination. He belonged to a Mali caste in Maharashtra, inspired by the biography of the Shivaji, George Washington, inspired by Thomas Paine's Rights of Man that you must have studied in your American Revolution. That he was also the one of the intellectuals who created subjective condition of the revolt which happened against the British rule in the America. The popular political revolution is permissible only when a government does not safeguard the natural rights of the people. This was said by the Thomas Paine. He interpreted it like enlightenment of the women and the lower caste is the only solutions to the fight the social evil. Then obviously he is very famous for his education. A lot of quotes you can use in your essay also. Quotes, obviously we try to quote the foreign authors, foreign, a lot of foreign people, but if you quote Indians and Indian quotes, that give more impetus to your essay writing. For example, he said, true education signifies empowering others and leaving a world little better than the one we found. Without education, wisdom is lost. Without wisdom, morals are lost. Without wisdom, morals are lost. Without morals, development is lost. Without development, wealth is lost. Without wealth, Shudras were ruined, and so much happened through the lack of education. So there he highlights the role of the education to eradicate the menace of the caste discrimination, untouchability, and the discrimination which is meted out to the Shudras. He attacked the Orthodox Brahmins. He said that you talk about these scriptures and all, but you don't practice this equality on your own end. You yourself occupy a very high prestigious position and you discriminate against. You talk about the big lofty values of Ram Rajya. You talk about big lofty values of justice and all these things, but you yourself is not doing it. He campaigned against the authoritarianism of the upper caste. Right, he saw that how this upper caste is doing, all saying all the good things, that the God will do this, God will do this, God is just, God is fine, and all these things. But on the other hand, they are doing injustice from their own hand. They are keeping it, this upper caste, their for example, institutions of temple head. The Brahmins will be temple head. Even if a Shudra has more knowledge with respect to the Vedas and all these things, they are not considered. So where is the merit that you talk about? Here's the peasants and the proletariats. Proletariat is the term being used by the Marx later on to defy the restrictions imposed, means against these bourgeois or against these landlords, that you should not listen to the restrictions that have been imposed by them on yourself. Don't do that. Opened school to the home people belonging to all caste and background. Lord Rama, he said, was misused. In fact, he set up his own icon, that is Bali, Lord Bali. He supervised the marriage without the priest of the without Brahmin priest. That was a very radical thing that to be done at that point of time, that marriage can be done without a Brahmin priest. He tried to set up his own religion, that is Sarvajanik Satya Dharma, that is the religion of the universal truth. Then, for the women empowerment, 1951 established a girls' school. In fact, 1948 established the school at Pune here, girls' school. Then, in 1951, a lot of schools he has opened after this particular school. He himself taught reading and writing to his wife. Conditions of the widow was very pathetic at that time. Inauspiciousness of the widowhood. If you get widow, for example, you sati. If not sati, sati is now prohibited. Now widows that have become, now their life is like a hell only. There is a good movie called Ganga where the atrocities or the psychological burden that goes on to the lives of the widows. So conditions of the widow was very poor. Established ashram for the young widows, advocated widow remarriage, child remarriage, kids of the widow abandoned. You don't have Ishwar Chand Vidyasagar here before him. So these are the works done before Ishwar Chand Vidyasagar. He fought against the female infanticide. For example, we'll see the works of the Savitri Bai Phule herself. So Satya Sodak Samaj in 1873 established a truth research society, systematic destruction of the existing belief and history, because he believed that because of this history, because of the history has been created by the sculptures to justify this atrocious and very unjust caste system, that needs to be dismantled, right? So existing beliefs and history, we need to destroy it. He wants to reconstruct equality promoting version, condemn the Vedas. They say if you trace that because of the Vedas, this Chaturvarna is there, because of the Vedas, we use this caste system, we don't require these Vedas. He established this Deen Bandhu, the mouthpiece of the Satyasodak Samaj. So this term you need to remember, Deen Bandhu. Then historical analysis, Brahmins are responsible for framing the exploitative and the inhuman laws. For example, if I have to remain in power forever, I will frame the laws according to my whims and fancies, and I will say that it is divine ordained. कि भाई इसको God ने बनाया है, the God has made it. I have not made it, the God has made it. That has been the version given by the Jyotiba Bai Phule. They said the Brahmins, these Brahmins have written these Vedas, and they have said that gods have written it in the Vedas. They themselves have given themselves a privileged position. When I'm writing a law, I'll say myself, my generations will be the people who will rule everything. So I'll write it in the laws and I will say God ne aisa likha hai, the God has seen it. If you have any problem, then go to the gods. Now how are you questioning the God? आप God को question कर रहे हो, so this is not good. So Brahmins are responsible for framing the exploitative and in the inhuman laws in order to maintain their social superiority by suppressing the Sudras and the Ati Shudras. He used the term Dalit for the first time. So first time the word Dalit is being used, people considered lower caste and untouchable by the Brahmins. So the purpose was to decontaminate the society from its caste discrimination, reduce the stigma which is associated. The membership was open to everyone irrespective of caste and class. Establish the common bathing tank outside his house, common bathing tank, so that the untouchability thing can be reduced, embracing the attitude towards all human life. So these are the things that are associated with the Jyotiba Bhai Phule. A few of the literary articles or literary drama and all these things you need to remember. For example, here's some of the works, that is Tritiya Ratna, next is Brahma Machaka Saab, this, next Gulam Giri is very, very important. Then Seth Karcha, Asud. So 3 to 4 literary thing that you need to remember. So they can give you question, 3 to 4 things have been written by someone and who is this? Options, and then you have to identify the social reformer. ठीक, chalo. Next comes the Savitri Bai Phule. So Savitri Bai Phule, the first generation modern Indian feminist. First generation. So she was married when she was 9 years old to 12 years old. Jyotiba Phule, child marriage she suffered herself. Apart from the caste dynamics, the caste challenges, so you can say uh, accelerated, or you can say accumulated discrimination she has faced. The discrimination being a woman and discrimination being belong to a lower caste. So that is the more accumulated discrimination that she faced. But she got Jyotiba Phule taught her reading, writing, and everything. And at the age of 17, she starts teaching in the Pune school. In 1852, started the Mahila Seva Mandal, create awareness among the women of the status and of their status and the right. Staunch advocate of the anti-caste ideology and women's right. Practice of shaving head of the Hindus' widows. She said to showcase, to protest, fought for the widow remarriage, shelter for the pregnant widows, and a lot of works. For example, she simultaneously campaigned against the child marriage while supporting widow remarriage. In 1863, started a home for prevention of infanticide. When the Jyotirao passed away, she herself led the funeral pyre. The women were not supposed to do that, even in the present time. If you have seen, the only the men go to the funeral ground, women do not go to the funeral ground, and she was the one who has broken that tradition. So really feminist of that time. She carried forward the works of the organization Satya Sodhak Samaj and also chaired the annual session in Saswad. She initiated first Satya Sodhak marriage, that is the marriage without dowry, Brahmin priest or Brahmanical rituals, in 1873. Adopted the son who had a Satya Sodhak intercaste marriage. They themselves have adopted a son of a widow. They did not have their own son, Jyotiba Bai Phule and Savitri Bai Phule. They adopted a son of a widow because the widows and their sons both were looked down upon in the absence of their father. So this is the story of the Jyotiba Bai Phule and Savitri Bai Phule. More importantly, from police perspective, all the facts, majority of the facts are being given. Any other question will be there, we will discuss it through questions, you know. For the mains, you can add more components and you can try to write answers. Next is EV Ramaswamy Nayakar. The question can be, we will frame one question in the next turn. EV Ramaswamy Nayakar, he is known as, from the UNESCO, has been given the title of South India's or the South India Socrates. He was the one again who fought for the Brahmanical superiority. Now the idea will be same in the caste, who will fight against the caste, the idea will be same. That no, this caste discrimination is bad, we need to listen to the reason, this does not dictate it, and everyone will fight, or everyone who will fight against this minak will say the same. So for example, he was a radical reformer of Tamil Nadu who born in Madras in 1879. He had rational ideas, participated in the non-cooperation movement and Viacom Satyagraha. We will see Viacom Satyagraha. In 1929 to 32, he toured the British Malay, Europe and Russia. So not only India and outside India, that's why he became very famous. He became the head of a Justice Party in 1944. We'll see the Justice Party. And then the name changed to the Dravid Kajagam, DMK right now. Tamil Journal, he started a Kudi Arasa. So a few of the facts with respect to EV Ramaswamy Nayakar, you need to remember. I'll just give you a current context. So 2 years back, his idol was defaced in Tamil Nadu. So basically, he's a rationalist, na. So sometimes some right wing people don't like him. Again, they say that Tukle gangs and all the we know all these controversy that happen in the newspaper, isn't it? So his face was defaced, and then again he came into news that what he has done, what are his works, how he is famous, and what are the reforms he has brought to the society in the Tamil Nadu. How they have smashed the Brahmanical patriarchy that was not done in the North India. In the North India was so entrenched, and in the South India you can see that's been targeted, and more institutional things that they have done, which was not present in the North India. Some of the good quotes: so wisdom lies in the thinking, the spearhead of the thinking is the rationalism. By helping the poor, we must be able to remove their poverty. By extending help to one here and one there in the form of providing food will not remove the poverty. For example, I was discussing one essay that giving a dole or versus the empowerment, that was the idea. For example, giving someone a fish and teaching someone a fish kind of relate to it. So you can use this particular quote in those essays where they talk about that how we need to empower people to get to them to work according to their own agencies. He said that there is no use of the simple acquiring titles or amassing wealth if one has no self-respect or the scientific knowledge. He started that self-respect movement. Self-respect movement. Chalo. Next, we go to the Narayan Guru in the Kerala. So his famous quote is one caste, one religion, and one God for the man. He says that whatever region it suffer, whichever the religion, it suffice if it makes a better man. So whatever be the, whichever be the religion, if it is, it's sufficient if it makes a better man. So Narayan Guru was born in 1856 in Trivandrum, where this Amrita's Academy is also there. So Sanskrit he wrote from a particular teacher, Raman Pillai Asan. He himself was known as the Nanu Asan. He became Parivarjaka, that means a wanderer. This has came in your this year UPSC paper, right? He became a wanderer and attained the enlightenment at this Maruthvamala hills. He established this SNDP, that is Sri Narayan Dharma Paripalana Yogam, in 1902. Where he talked about, where basically he institutionalized his ideas. He said his ideas that obviously that all religions are equal, one caste, one god, one, and all these things. He said against the animal sacrifice, decisiveness based upon caste, race, creed. He himself belonged to the caste, one of the lower caste, considered lower caste in the Kerala, that is Izhava caste. Okay, and the big and the high caste in the Kerala are the Nayar and the Lambudri part. I think the students from the Kerala are able to relate with them. In fact, they'll know better points with respect to Narayan Guru than I am obviously giving. Then he was a social reformer, rejected the caste system and talked about the equality. He gave the message one caste, one religion, one God. For the Ijavas, he said that drink not, don't drink toddy, don't serve not, and brew not. Because he said that this toddy tapping or this alcohol, making alcohol, don't do this menial task. Very important, this Aravi Puram movement. So Aravi Puram movement, basically what he did, he basically on the night of the Shivaratri in 1888, he defied the restrictions which were placed upon the Ijava community. For example, the lower caste people sometimes not supposed to enter the temple, not supposed to touch the deity. He himself consecrated one idol of Shiva. He said that this is the Shiva of the, let's say, lower caste, not of upper caste. We will do it. So all the restrictions that have been imposed upon the Ijavas from the upper caste, he said, no, we will not follow it. In some of the temples, he established the mirror in the in the place of an idol, saying that the divine is within you, right? Then education, he has a literary work that is Atmapadesh Satakam, composed in 1897. He was a keen educator, taught Sanskrit and Upanishad even to the lower caste. He read Sanskrit from this teacher, right? Sanskrit. So remember that he taught Sanskrit to the lower caste, which was prohibited. That Sanskrit and all these things will be taught only to the Brahmanical caste or the upper caste, and they will teach it to the other people. So directly they cannot teach it. Messenger of Unity traveled all over Kerala and Madras, teach the message of one God, one caste, one religion. Participated in the temple entry movement. He lent his support to the Viacom Satyagraha, the temple entry movement, temple entry in Travancore, and the Gandhi ji met Guru in this particular time, Narayan Guru. Okay? So SNDP Yogam took up several issues for Ijava, such as or lower caste in all totality, right of admission to the public school, recruitment to the government service, access to the road and entry to the temple, and political representation. Remember this fourth point also. They also talked about the political representation. In fact, a lot of reforms that have taken place in the North India, they have not talked about the political representation. And that is why B.R. Ambedkar, when he comes, he talks about the political representation, and he becomes a very, very influential person. Because for example, Jyotiba Phule have not talked a lot about the political representation, but in the south you have the leaders such as Periyar or such as Narayan Guru. They are talking about the political representation. Earlier leaders were talking about more about the social reform aspects of it. So that's the idea. Movement as a whole brought transformative structural change such as upward social mobility, shift in the traditional distribution of power, federation of the backward caste into large conglomeration, and all these things. The movement in Madras was started by Justice Movement. Now discussing the Justice Movement. Now Justice Movement was a very seminal movement in the history of the Tamil Nadu. So around 30 plus non-Brahmins have come, and they have seen the discrimination, and they've come together to start this justice movement. So CN Mudaliar, TM Nair, P Tyagaraja, these people have extra people have come to secure jobs and representation for non-Brahmins in the legislature. They say that these Brahmins dominate not only the religious aspect, but because of their dominance in the religious aspect, and as religion plays a very important role in each and every sphere of our social aspect, they dominate everything. Why they do it? We want representation, non-Brahmins representation in the legislature. In 1917, the Madras Presidency Association was formed, which demanded the separate representation for the lower caste in the legislature. Then they become the Justice Party. And then we have seen in 1944, the Justice Party had became Mr. Naikar, Ramaswamy Naikar. So Justice Party became a very important movement. Justice movement or Justice Party later on became a very important movement within the in the reforming the or fighting against the caste discrimination and giving them the political representation. Now, overall, if we say the factors which has led to the mitigating of the caste-based discrimination, though they have not been mitigated, the problems are still there. They have, for example, caste problems. If you write in your GS1 society, there is a question comes on the caste, right? For example, caste has transformed itself. For example, now it is more of a political, it's social, it's social, it's economical aspects are reducing, but political is as it is. In fact, it is more increasing, the politicization of the caste or casteization of the politics. But the social and the economic thing seems to be blur, because increasing intercaste marriages, increasing social mobility, increasing private sector which does not discriminate among the classes, which focuses only on the merit, reservation, you can say, which has given them a lot of voice, a lot of representation, or at least started the journey towards the representation. So the caste angle, it's a very emotive issue, isn't it? So for example, if few of you belonging to the upper caste, you'll have different view, few of you belong to the lower caste have different view, I may have a different view, but overall let's talk about facts. So some of the things that have, for example, very good examples can be given. For example, in the urban areas, or if you order something from Swiggy, you don't care that who has cooked it, isn't it? You don't care that who is this person, whether it's been cooked by lower caste, upper caste, and all these things, right? But when you go for the when earlier the food, if you prepared in the lower caste, from upper caste people do not used to eat it. So these things have given a lot of freedom, anonymity. The urbanization has given a lot of anonymity to these people, a lot of empowerment, jobs, and all these things that have created a, that have instilled a sense of confidence. It's still a long way to be traveled, but these are the things. But still some of the areas which is highly entrenched, for example, political, you can say intercaste marriages are also very rare, in fact considered as a taboo or considered as stigma sometimes. Very difficult, especially in the North India. Intercaste marriages are very, very taboo, right? I'm not sure about the South Indian societies, but the North India, it's very there, very, very much there. Now, factors which mitigate the caste-based discrimination. First, the British rule itself. Why British rule? They undermine a bit of cost consciousness, and both the things they have done. For example, they established these census. Now, for example, these castes earlier were overlapping. Okay, this is the caste, I belong to this caste, that caste I really don't know. But because of this registration census, they have made it official. So now when it became official, it became strict divided things. Okay, you belong to this caste, you are this, you are that, and you are this. Earlier, a lot of overflow was there. No strict separations were there. But now with the British have come up with the census, with institutionalization of the process, and hence they undermine the caste consciousness. Earlier, apart from that, the creation of a private property in the land, free sale of the land, upset the caste equations. Virtual autocracy was crumbled. Now earlier the village was self-sufficient, isn't it? They have the handicraft, they have the agriculture, they have the lock, the ironsmith, and everyone. Division of labor according to the caste used to be there in the practical society. But now the village is totally ruined because of the, we have seen deindustrialization, ruralization, problems in the agrarian structure. Now that is crumbled. When that becomes, then the linkage between the caste and the work that they do has been broken down, because now people are not finding any work per se. So for example, even a upper caste person not getting any work, if he is not, if he's getting any work which is not he has done traditionally, but he will do because he does not have any employment. That's the idea. It has increased the mobility of the population, equality because of the means of transportation, means for transportation. Tick. So equality before law versus social and legal inequalities. So these things are reduced. We have seen with the judicial system how the prestige of the panchayats have brought down, and especially the panchayats where the caste equation dominated. These upper caste people used to be the dominated ones in the panchayats. Now that panchayat prestige itself is down, so it will increase the and when the judiciary is there, now judiciary is based upon the idea of equality before law and all these things. Hence it will give a lot of freedom to the caste people, lower caste. Administrative services were made open to all. Social reform movements have undermined, obviously, the Brahmo Samaj, Pratna Samaj, Arya Samaj, and a lot of SNDP and all these things. They raised education, they removed restrictions. A few defended the Chaturvarna. For example, Arya Samaj. Arya Samaj has defended the Chaturvarna, but they have criticized the untouchability. No, untouchability is a problem. Mahatma Gandhi, he defended Chaturvarna, but he says untouchability is bad. So unanimously, everyone has said that untouchability is bad, untouchability is bad. Social reformers were against the undemocratic authoritarian caste institutions. For example, you can take, we have given the example of Jyotiba Phule, called on the people to work for the betterment of the real world rather than strive for the salvation after death. That why are doing we are, for example, if you belong to a lower caste, people will say that is because of your karma, and if you do the work according to your caste, next year you will be born into the upper caste, next year or next, not next year, next birth. But social reformers talk about, no, we need to remove these injustices in this world. Who has seen the other world? Why are you giving us a pill to swallow our own, to justify our own grievances, justify these injustices, justify these discriminations? No, we will not do this. We need to strive for the better world in this particular lifetime, not in the next lifetime. So we will work for it. National movement which was built, now we are talking in the long run. So national movement based upon the idea of liberty, equality. The national leaders and organizations, they talk about the caste privileges should not be there. They talk about that civil liberty needs to be increased, this freedom, equality, and all these ideas. For example, Mahatma Gandhi himself, his constructive work, which when we'll read it, it was the Mahatma Gandhi who has given the word Harijan. He himself organized All India Harijan Sangh. He himself cleaned his toilet to showcase the importance of the manual labor. He said that sanitation needs to be it's the work of everyone. It's not the work of the few selected few, and especially selected few lower caste. He said that touchability is the ultimate sin which is being committed by the some people on the other. Though he defended Chaturvarna, but Gandhiji was against the idea of the untouchability. For example, we will see in 1937, the Congress governments will be formed in the states such as UP and all these things, state governments. Now, state governments, when the Congress governments will be formed, when first time the Indians will get into the executive positions, they will do the works to reduce this untouchability, provide free education, free healthcare to these people, to make them more aware and to strengthen their movement. Then the mass participation, which with the time of the Mahatma Gandhi, which started mass participation. You know, Mahatma Gandhi's biggest contribution to the national movement was that he converted the national movement from a class-based to a mass-based organization. We'll discuss that. So class-based means earlier a few people were caught in, for earlier a few intelligentsia and all these people were only contributing to the national movement cause. But with the advent of the Mahatma Gandhi, everyone was included in there. So also these people from the lower caste also felt that, no, we have the space, we have the voice, and we are also being listened up. Now stirring among the lower caste itself because of such movements. Now lower caste itself, because of the education, because of the awakening, they themselves became aware about, yes, the discrimination has been given to us, we have been given the pills by the upper caste till now. Okay, this is because of the god, this is because of the lord of karma, this is your destiny, this is that, this is that. Now they are themselves are aware, no, we will not take up this injustice for now. Now we will rise up again and we will defend our honor, we will defend our dignity. So for example, the works of Jyotiba Phule, SNDP, Baba Saheb Ambedkar, who organized All India Scheduled Caste Federation and all these things, he written a very great speech, that is Annihilation of the Caste System. In 1936 his speech was going to be there, but ultimately it couldn't be possible, so he printed that speech and distributed it. Recently, last 3 to 4 years back, no, not 3 to 4 years, around 7 years back, a book has came, that is Doctor and the Saint. So a very good book is there based upon the speech of the B.R. Ambedkar. So he organized a Mahat Satyagraha in 1927, where he said that everyone has a right to this, let's say, well public school, temple entry and everything. He talked about elevation of person, that a person should self elevate themselves. One should not resign to destiny. Why? Through self help. स्वयं की help करो. Try to help yourself, get your own self worth up, self respect and self knowledge. He burned Manusmriti in 1927. His famous words are educate, agitate, and organize, right? Very um, seminal words which he has said, that educate yourself, agitate for your rights, and organize, create institutions so that you can fight for your rights, and the people who are coming after you, your next generation, they should not face the discrimination that you have faced. Try to improve the kinds of the life that you people are living, improve your self-worth and all these things. Bahishkrit Hitkarni Sabha in 1924 he established. Self-respect movement, EV Ramaswamy Naikar, examples of this. Chalo. So these are the different things with respect to the caste movement and the reform of the reformers. Let us talk about the Sikh reform movements. Now, the idea of the reforms were not confined to Hindus and only to the caste within the Hindu system. Other religions were also equally affected. First, we'll see Sikh, then some Parsi, then Muslim. So the reform movements were not only confined to this Hindu society and Hindu people. No. For example, the Sikh reform movement, two of the reform movements are famous. First is the Singh Sabha movement. The idea of the Singh Sabha movement was very easy, that this Western education, we need to adopt it because this is good. So they established a network of the Khalsa school by the Sabha, and we will teach the Sikh students about these things as well. You need to remember the name. Year 1873, the year Satyasodhak Samaj was formed, Singh Sabha movement started. Objective was to counter this proselytizing activity of the Christian missionary, even the Brahmo Samaj, Arya Samaj, and the Muslim Maulvis. That why you want to convert the people from our religion to the other religion. Dekho, one thing is very common here, that no religion wants to reduce its number, because if the number of a religion is reduced, that religion will break down into some small parts and everything will come to an end. And that is why they want to retain these people. In fact, one of the argument given by for the Arya Samajis, that yes, they criticize they criticize the untouchability because to keep the lower caste within the Hindu fold. In any case, Arya Samajis are Hindus, right? They did not convert into Christianity, they did not convert into Buddhism, but yes, it's a sect within the Hinduism. So basically the idea is that we should not let reduce the strength within our, we should not reduce the strength of the religion in terms of the numbers. So we should not do this because it will hamper us only. Okay? Then Akali movement was particularly against the Udasi Mahant, it is said. Just like the Brahmins who have captured the highest position in the temple, similarly in Gurudwaras, a few people belonging to a particular class have captured this top position. They became favored of the government favored them, right? And they are the people who have dominated everything, and the remaining Sikhs were very fed up of it, that what is this happening, these people have become corrupt. A lot of promiscuous activities they were doing which they are not supposed to do. They were maligning the image of the Sikhism. So the people have come out and say no more, this no more will be continued. So considered as the Sikh Sabha movement, or also considered as the Gurudwara reform movement, Akali movement. They said that we will reform these Gurudwaras and these Udasi Mahant. We will liberate the Sikh Gurudwaras from the control of the corrupt Udasi Mahant who are having the government patronage, and they have made this position hereditary. I will do, my son will do, my son's son will do, and like that. And you can see it going into the 1920s, non-cooperation movement. They started this non-cooperation movement along with the non-cooperation movement which is happening in the all over India. And the government took a high repression on them. Government just massacred a lot of people. We'll see Nankara massacre. Now later on, the government has to bow down against the Sikh. For example, current the farm protest, government has not bowed down till now at this particular when we are recording the sessions. But let's see. So center of the Gurudwara, so government has to bow down. They have to sign this 1922 Sikh Gurudwara Act, and control of the Gurudwaras will be through Shiromani Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee, that is SGPC, which is still there in Gurudwaras. Okay, SGPC. This was the Nankara massacre, in fact, in which a lot of more than 266 were killed. It was in Punjab, Pakistan, current day Pakistan. So it was because they were protesting and then open shooting. It is said to be next Jallianwala Bagh Hatyakand. It comes only next to Jallianwala Bagh massacre of April 1919. The saga constitutes the core of the Gurdwara reform movement started by the Sikhs in the early 20th century. Akali movement was not a regional movement but a communal one. Akalis played a notable role in the national liberation, and though some dissenting voices were heard occasionally. For example, later on you'll see the Khalistani elements within these movements will come and will dominated the scene post independence. So post independence module you must have read or you will read later on the Punjab crisis, and they will trace their origin from these times only. Chalo. Then some Parsi reform movements, only some information is more than relevant. So they've started with the Dada Bhai Naroji Furunji, CKR Kama, SS Bengali. They are the leaders of this Ramunamai Mazdayan Sabha, that is Religious Reform Association. So the idea is that in the Parsi community or the Parsi religion itself, a lot of impurity has crept into it, and we want to reform that. For example, parda system, age of marriage has to be increased, and all these things. And they have done it successfully. And it is one of the most westernized, most rich community that is there in India. One of the richest community that is there in India, that is the Parsi community. So they emerge as the most westernized section of the Indian society. So this Sabha was formed in 1851 by English educated Parsis for regeneration of the social condition of Parsis and the restoration of the Zoroastrian religion to its pristine unity. Next, we talk about Muslim reform movement. Now, Muslim reform movements, one movement we will see Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. In the Muslim reform movements, you will see a lot of tendencies. For example, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan later on becoming the pro-government. And then you will see someone fighting this Sir Syed Ahmad Khan because they are fighting with Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. For example, Deobandi school. The ideas of the Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, obviously, they will not like. For example, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan will talk about that Western education is important and all these things are important, that Islam has to be reinterpreted in the light of in the modern lights, and these things he will say. And obviously, some orthodox element will not like this. So orthodox element, because now Sir Syed Ahmad Khan is saying that, okay, we are pro-government, hence they will say, okay, we are pro-national movement. So they will support INC. Not because they love INC, just because Sir Syed Ahmad Khan is pro-government, and Sir Syed Ahmad Khan will tell these Muslim students that don't enter into the politics. Why Sir Syed Ahmad Khan will say don't enter into the politics? The same thing that we say today to the university students, that don't enter into the politics, focus on your own development, focus on education and all these things. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan believed that Muslim community has been very degraded, opposition is very poor as compared to all the communities, including the Hindu communities. Muslim community is far, far, far behind. So he said that if we go into the politics, we will not get educated, we will only be repressed by the government. So it's better to be pro government, it's better to work with the government, get education, get employment, empower yourself, political activities later on, but empower yourself. That was the idea of the Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. He was justified in his own argument, but in a sense, while supporting the government, we will call him a bit of reactionary and not able to see the big picture. Now, let us set up the background for Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. So now British have seen the 1857 revolt. Now 1857 revolt with the leaders, you can say Bakht Khan, you can see the leader Bahadur Shah Jafar. They will say that it was basically a Muslim conspirators were there. And they were not happy with the activity of the Wahhabi movement. We have seen the Wahhabi movement as well. But their opinions have changed later on. Why? Because now post 1857, they will see a lot of Hindu organizations coming up, reform movements coming up, Hindu uniting. So they now have the policy of divide and counterpoise, right? Divide and rule. So they will say, okay, we will favor the Muslims. So Muslims can be used as an allies. So later on, they have framed, okay, these are the Muslims who are a conspirator and they need to be persecuted and they need to be made aloof from the administration. We will not give them any attention. But later on, they've realized that Muslims can be very good allies, and we can use these Muslims to divide a communal idea into the minds of the Indians. So versus the rising national political activity, and basically driven by the Hindu leadership. So they have made thoughtful concessions to the Muslim. Okay, we will give something to the Muslims. Muslim will be happy, but Hindus will be sad. Hindus will be unhappy and very angry. Why? First, they will say that why are you discriminating against us? First, secondly, they will say to the Muslims, why are you taking up their concessions? But the Muslims will say, okay, our position is very poor and we have to take this concession. Otherwise, our position will become very, very poor. Even if we fight, even if we become independent, we'll always remain poor. So it's better to take the immediate concessions and be happy rather than fight with you people and ultimately give power to you people only. So this was the basically the divide and rule policy they have established. So Hindu versus Muslim they have established. Now, within the section of the Muslim, use this patronage which is given through these concessions to improve the situation of the Muslims. Better education, है ना, employment opportunity. So these concessions have been taken, and Sir Syed Ahmad Khan belongs to that particular section of the Muslim. He started his service as a member of the judicial service. He got retired in 1876. He became the member of the Imperial Legislative Council. He was appointed a knighthood for the support he has given to the Britishers. He wanted to reconcile this Western scientific education because he was the member of this Imperial Legislative Council, judicial services. He has seen those values. So he wanted to include those values into the Muslim students and Muslim youth. So he said that we want to reconcile the Western scientific education with the teachings of the Islam. And this have to be interpreted with the contemporary rationalism. So he has not he has not said that Islam is poor and Quran is bad and everything. No, he said that everything can be reinterpreted in the light of the reason. That we have to see it in the more recent context. He said that the religion should be adaptable with time or else it will become fossilized. That religious tenets were not immutable. We need to change something. We need to work out a way so that we can interpret religion in the modern lights. He advocated a critical approach, freedom of thought, not complete dependence on tradition and custom. He was an educationist, an official who opened school. So Aligarh Muslim University, earlier known as the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, he started in 1875. He struggled to bring an improvement in the position of the women itself, better education, opposing parda, polygamy, advocating easy divorce, condemning the system of the piri and muridi and all these things. Okay? So he talked about the practical morality. Then he argued that the Muslim was first concentrate on the education and the job, then try to catch up with the Hindu counterparts who have gained the advantage of the early start. So active participation in the politics would invite the hostility of the government that we have discussed towards the Muslim masses, and that should not be done. Isliye, he said they would oppose the political activities in the Muslim. You have to remember his magazine name, that is Taglik Uk Akhlaq. A few organizations also he set up. I'll give you a list, or through question we'll discuss. UPSC has previously asked a few of his organization, United Patriotic Association and all these organizations that are associated with him as well. Aligarh movement emerged as a liberal modern trend among the Muslim intelligentsia based in Muhammad Anglo-Oriental College. So within this college, they have started this movement aimed at spreading the modern education among the Indian Muslims, social reforms, parda and all these things that we have read. They've talked about the liberal interpretation of Quran. They sought to harmonize Islam with the modern liberal culture. So this is your Aligarh movement and the story of the Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. I hope when you listen the lecture first and then revise it from your notes or the PDFs which is given to you, then only the complete knowledge will get to you. Otherwise, it will remain shallow. If you feel that you have seen the lectures and that's done, no, it is not at all. The lectures are only kind of a lubricant that helps you in your preparation to move forward, to get some stories or some things which get into your brain. But ultimately, you have to download the PDFs, you have to study, or from the textbook wherever you want to read. Next is the Ahmadiyya movement. Now, Ahmadiyya movement you must have read in your current affairs also, right? For example, some news that come that Ahmadis in the Pakistan face prosecution, flee to Nepal. For example, when the CAA debate was there, it was said that why India has not given relief to the Ahmadiyyas in the Pakistan. So what is these Ahmadiyyas? Ahmadiyyas are basically considered a sect within the Muslims. Now, Muslims do not consider it as Muslims itself. They say that they are non-Muslims. What is their fundamental tenet? Their fundamental tenet is that obviously they'll talk about the universal religion and they'll talk similar to the Brahmo Samaj, Mohammedan Renaissance, stand period of the Mohammedan Renaissance. But a very important tenet that they believe that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad was also a kind of a Messiah. Now they believe that only Prophet Muhammad, the rest of the Muslims, they believe that it was only the Prophet Muhammad was there. But they said no, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad was also the kind of a masiha who has come to the world, and this is not acceptable to the other religious communities, and that is why they are persecuted. They are said that you are non-Muslims, you do not follow the Muslim doctrine, and hence they are persecuted in the major Muslim countries such as Pakistan and the other countries. They talked about, similar to the Brahmo Samaj, universal religion of all humanity, oppose jihad, sacred war against the non-Muslims, which is considered to be some of the fundamental tenets in the Muslim religion. So they believed in separating the mosque and the state. They literally talk about the ideas of the secularism, human rights, tolerance, and everything, these things. So these are the reasons why Ahmadiyya movement or Ahmadiyyas are being persecuted uh, in the other countries, right? Next is Deoband school. We have seen the Deoband school coming in the in contrast to the Aligarh movement. So Deoband school, known as Darul Uloom, orthodox, plus it was a revivalist thing. They said to propagate the pure teaching of the Quran and Hadith. So current society is not good, but we have to go back and we have to go to the traditional reading of our old books. So this is what they'll say. They said that we need to keep the spirit of the jihad versus the foreign rulers up. Then some of the leaders, that is Muhammad Qasam Nanotawi and Rashid Ahmad Gangohi, they train the religious leaders, moral and the religious regeneration of the Muslim community, instructions in the original Islamic religion. These things needs to be done. They supported the Indian National Congress. So this is one thing that you need to remember. Why is they supported? Because they wanted to oppose the Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan. Thik? It started in the state or in the city of Saharanpur in UP. Saharanpur in UP is where that this Deoband school has started. Then Wahhabi movement, we have discussed Wahhabi movement, right? So Wahhabi movement influenced by the Abdul Wahhab of Saudi and Shah Waliullah of Delhi. So teachings were incorporated by Sir Sayyid Ahmad in Rabareli, condemning the Western influence in Islam, returning to pure Islam. They said that from territory of war, we have to go to the territory of Islam. And later on, they have waged their war, this um, against the EIC. And later on, we'll see 1858 that we've discussed. That first, they're considering Muslim as a conspirator and also the activities of the Wahhabi movement. So they are saying that these Muslims are the real conspirators. So these are all about the socio-cultural reform movements. I went very quickly these three. Just read the stories, download the PDF, try to revise, and more importantly, we'll revise more and more. We'll see a lot of questions, as we have said, 10 to 15 questions I will discuss of the socio-cultural reform movements for sure, and I'll spread it out in the different videos or different sessions, so as to that will remain in our mind. I'll try to include majority of the questions which is covered in your test series at multiple places, famous test series around the previous UPSC papers, so that you are not devoid of, or you're not you have to solve a few questions that you see aksar ye content nahi cover hua, this content is not covered. So I'll make sure that all that content is at least covered in your notes. Now let's talk about the last section, that we have to discuss the positives and the negatives of the socio-cultural reform movements. One of the positive, for example, we have seen that caste discrimination somehow mitigated, right? So they have increased the education, they have increased the awareness about these for this lower caste. So some sort of reforms in that regard. Some reforms in the religion have come, some reform in the women's condition have come. For example, the works of Jyotiba Phule, their girls education has been highlighted, Ishuchand Vidyasagar, Raja Ram Mohan Roy. So these are the things. Some more positive things have become, that is middle class. So middle class have found the cultural roots to cling on to. That means earlier the middle class felt that we have nothing. For example, they were watching these foreign rulers, the Britishers have come and they have ruled us. We don't have any values, we don't have any culture, they are very civilized and we are not civilized. But for example, Raja Ram Mohan Roy told that Vedic Vedanta, Swami Vivekananda talked about Vedanta, the purity of the Vedanta, the speeches in the um, world parliament. So these are the people who have showcased, no, our ancient culture was good. Yes, currently some problems have crept into it, but overall it has given the middle class the self confidence which was required. No, we ourselves are very developed. We are not a decadent society. We Yes, we have lost our way, and that's why we have to fight against these Britishers as well. So from this, the consciousness of the modern nationalism will also start. that yes, we are self confident, we are becoming self confident. No, we have a better cultural roots, we have this past glory which we have lost because of some reasons, because of which these foreign rulers have come and ruled over us. Now we have to fight them out, and we need to create this modern sense of nationalism, and we will win this over. So this was the idea with the socio-cultural reform movements, the positive sides of it. Let us see. So liberation of the individual from the conformities of the conformity bond of the fear, uncritical submission in the priest and the other classes. Good examples of Akali movement, you can say. Good examples of, let's say, SNDP movement, you can see, right? So the movement carried out by Narayan Guru in 1888. So the individual right to interpret religion. So religion ko, some the grasp of orthodoxy have been removed. The self-respect has been increased. So middle class has found the cultural roots to cling on, reducing the humiliation, fostering the secular outlook. Role of religion is reduced, scientific knowledge increased. Modernization versus the notions of purity and pollution. The old notions have been deconstructed. The works of Savitri Bai Phule, for example, including the funeral pyre herself, ending India's cultural and intellectual isolation. So, for example, Swami Vivekananda talk about the integration of the West and the East, right? So, East spiritualism of the East and materialism of the West. So earlier, because of the Britishers, everything has been isolated. India was said to be very a land of barbarians, but it was not like that. So these people have come up with the talked about the need of the cultural continuity and the philosophical continuity that we have to maintain with the West. But we have the positive, but some of the negatives of the socio-cultural reform movements were also there. For example, it was more or less confined to the urban people, especially urban middle class and the intellectual class. The causes of the peasants and all were not taken up very in detail, especially where the concrete and manifested injustices were there. For example, the positions of the peasants. Now imagine if the leadership of these movements are taken up by, let's say, zamindars or the influential member of the society. How will we take up the causes of the peasants, which is very poor and very so that was inherent conflict of interest was there, right? One more thing was seen, for example, Hindus versus Muslims. Now Hindus were saying that Vedas are good things, or the old is gold, ancient India was fine, and the medieval India everything went berserk. Medieval India, which was ruled by the Mughal rulers or the Muslims. Now the Muslim community is watching it. Muslim community is saying ki bhai, we like these people, we like the Mughal rule. In fact, we trace our religious conversions to that time, that we became Muslims into this period only. Now they will feel okay, yeah, this is not good, so they will trace their history from West Asia. They will trace their history from, let's say, Wahhabi movements, or from Saudi Arabia, and where they will trace their history, because they also need to have the moral high ground to tell, okay, these are the things that were good in the Islam. So that created a kind of a rift. For example, Hindus will say the medieval India, the Muslims have ruined India, because of which the Britishers have come and taken over India. If Hindus would be ruling India, Britishers have never come. So these kind of things have created a communal tensions. So some communal, for example, Shuddhi movement in Arya Samaj that we have seen, है ना? So it will create a lot of communal tensions in the society. So let us see one by one. So first of all, the narrow base, educated and the urban middle class was there. They ignored the peasantry and the urban poor. Indirect and encouraged mysticism, such as the works of, let's say, mysticism means the greatness of the past. We have also seen the pseudo national or pseudo pride that inculcate. For example, Theosophical Society, let's say, है ना? Communal consciousness. Hindu reformers praised the ancient, and medievals were decadent. And the lower caste also did not like it. When the upper caste Hindus will say that the ancient India was very good, not lower caste will say Manusmriti was written at that time, and they have discriminated openly against the lower caste. How can you say so that the upper this ancient India was very good, very good? No, it was not very good. We were discriminated, we did not feel good, this is wrong. So lower caste and the Muslims were alienated from there, right? And they felt pride in the history of the West Asia. So all the composite culture, the communal consciousness increased, and the composite culture declined. And this said seed the foundations of the partition which will happen in 1947. All this communal consciousness will be taken up in the political sphere. by the political parties. Let's say Muslim League will be formed, and later on rest is history. So that with this, let's finish this particular session. A very relatively long sessions were there, but important ones for our exam. As I told you, series of mains question I'll give, and secondly, you can try these questions out, and secondly, some of the prelims question that I'll discuss in the coming sessions, where you can study it again or revise it again, whatever we have studied. So let's see a few questions. First question is, Sri Narayan Guru preached the brotherhood for all, fought against the ills of the caste system, discuss how he led a quiet but significant social revolution. So you see, this question is specifically based upon one personality. So you can expect one question, personality centric question. Jyotiba Phule, Mr. Nayakar, Ramaswamy Nayakar, Narayan Guru. You can expect one question. Swami Vivekanand, not Ramkrishna Paramhans, but Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishushan Vidyasagar. So at least prepare 7 to 8 people and something with respect to them. 7 to 8 people. Then Swami Dayanand, for example, Swami Dayanand, philosophy represents both the strands of extremism and the social radicalism discussed. So this is one of the questions on Swami Vivekanand. Then this is the question, Ishwachand Vidyasagar to the making of the modern India. Discuss the contribution of the Ishwachand Vidyasagar to the making of the modern India. Now this is the question which I have discussed in this particular video. Go to this particular link and you'll find the discussion. You can ask from the management itself about for the PDF of this session, right? The PDFs are available of the solutions of this session as well. So there you can get all the information that you need for the Ishwachan Vidyasagar, which I have not discussed in this last session and this present session. Then some questions. Though India as a whole has been ruled by some emperors in the past, it was only in the 19th century. 19th century means 1800 to 1899. The concept of the national identity and the national consciousness has emerged. So it's a good question. Try this question out. You can also read the next theme. After that, you can try. Reformist and the revivalist movement organized the societal structure in India to an appreciable extent. Reformist and the revivalist movements have reorganized India, the societal structure in India to an appreciable extent, but attracted the opposition from many. Discuss and explain how these changes stood the test of the times. It's a good question, big question. Try this question out. Next question, despite the limitations, socio-cultural reform movements during the British time led to many far-reaching changes in the industry. Very easy question. You can first attempt this question, then try this question. Chalo. So with this, we finish our session for today. We 6 questions for the mains I have given, no prelims question specifically. Last time we have done some prelims question, but as I told you, we'll do the prelims question. Theme 3 has ended, so that's the end of the theme 3. Now we'll enter into theme 4. Theme 4 is relatively small, only 3 to 4 sessions. I'll cover the theme 4. We'll talk about the rise of the modern nationalism. We'll start with the tracing the education right from the time of the 1813 to the times of the independence. So we'll trace the complete education in the very next session. So my suggestion to you again, as we are ending particular theme, revise everything, revise the PDF, solve the questions. If you want to practice the mains answer writing, do it. This is the present time. At this juncture, you can do it because you are studying it. Complete the modern history from pre-mains, both perspective, each and every perspective, and get it done. If you write more than 5 to 10 answers, send me the PDF or send the management the PDFs. The faculties will check and they'll get back to you. More than 10 questions. And if I am available, I'll check myself. Okay? So these are the things that you need to focus, and we'll see you in the next session. Bye bye for now. Thank you.